name is Lou.
Oh, hello, Lou.
Today we are working the New Headway Elementary book. We have the first time I went abroad. What's good about going abroad?
Well, you
What's
meet...
not so good?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were asking me the question.
Oh, Mr. Paul,
Yes.
what is good about going abroad?
Well, you
First of
mean
all,
you-
what is it? What is abroad?
Abroad is to go to another country,
Yeah.
overseas. Doesn't have to be overseas if your country borders another country. Like my country borders Wales and Scotland. So that's also going abroad for us,
Okay.
although it's part of our own home nations. But usually I think of going abroad as maybe go to France. That's the nearest country overseas for us, really. And you meet new people, and like in France, they speak French. They don't like to speak English, so we have to try to speak a little bit of French first. But the thing is, most people in England don't actually speak French. It's very difficult for us, because wherever we go in the world, people speak to us in English. So we have become very lazy speakers when it comes to language, because we know that wherever we go in the world, people will speak to us in English. But that doesn't really include the French, because unless we can speak at least some basic phrases in French, they're quite indignant about it. They don't want to talk to us. So yeah, so I know a couple of little French phrases in case I go to France. But when you travel abroad, you meet all these different people.
What's good about going abroad?
So as I was saying, you meet all these different people and different food, of course. So you get lots of different types of food. I mean, the French are well known for their fantastic food, cordon bleu food, and I mean, you can't beat the French for cooking. Everyone knows that. But what annoys me is when people say that English food is not very good, which is complete rubbish. We have many kinds of different types of food, but it's good to get away from that and to travel to places like France where you can try out all these different types of food. But I mean, the first time I went abroad, I did go to France actually. I went to Boulogne, and I just went for the weekend. And I was a teenager at the time. I decided to go there. But now I've actually travelled around the world. I've been all around. I went, where have I been? I've been to Spain, Belgium, Holland. I've been to the United States. I've been to the Bahamas. Obviously, in my own country, I travelled across up to Scotland, which is not England. It's another country. People seem to think that Scotland and Wales are part of England, because they're not. They're part of the United Kingdom. So I've been to Wales and Scotland, and I've been Spain, Belgium, Holland, Turkey. Spent 3 years in Turkey. Spent 2 years in Poland. I went as far east as the border with Belarus, and which I think some people call Belarus. But where else? I travelled all around Turkey. Went to Marmaris. I went to Izmir, Ankara, Eskişehir, Bursa, Adana, Antalya, Alanya. I went to lots of these places. So obviously in Turkey the food's much more different to the type of food we eat in England. Although we do have lots of Turkish restaurants in England. And where else did I go? Oh, the other thing, of course, about travelling abroad is the climate, the weather conditions. Because in Britain our climate is very changeable. We can have like 4 seasons in the same day. We literally can, because of the position of the British Isles. But so many English people like to travel to Spain, and I worked near Barcelona for 3 years in that sort of region, Catalan region, and it was fantastic. And they have really nice food, good food, Mediterranean style food, typical paella, Spanish dishes. So I do like going to Spain. Poland, yeah, different climate again, very cold, although they do have very hot summers, a bit like Britain really. Obviously not as cold as Poland, but still very cold in the winter. And we have hot summers, but very short-lived. So it's interesting to go to places like Turkey, Spain, where they have very hot summers, But don't be fooled, they do also have cold winters, especially Turkey. It can be freezing cold in Turkey. But, so we have the food, the climate, and obviously when I went to the United States, again, although they are literally our cousins, if you could say that, the food is actually quite different because they eat a lot of steaks. Or we eat steaks and spare ribs, but they're kind of big on spare ribs, as you know, because obviously you're from the United States. But I didn't know how I was supposed to eat the spare ribs. When I went there, I was 25 years old. This was in 1980. And I ordered the spare ribs, and I looked at it and I thought, wow, how am I supposed to eat this? I don't want to look stupid now. And fortunately for me, somebody else also ordered spare ribs. So I am sort of just taking my time with this, looking at the sauces and the salt and pepper, the condiments. But I'm actually, out of the corner of my eye, I'm watching the people on the other table. And then they got stuck in to the spare ribs with their hands, just pulling it apart and eating the meat. And then I realised, okay, so that's how you do it. But so the food, the climate, also the culture. Cultures are very different. I mean, American culture is very different from British culture. And for me personally, and this is not an insult, I found Americans to be generally a bit louder than the British, but don't be fooled by that, because the British are also quite loud. Although we come across as being polite, but they also say we are quite cold people, not so friendly. And the Americans, for me, were very, very friendly. Oh, the other thing about the cultural difference in America is they tip quite a lot. We don't tend to tip so much. So in the restaurants in Britain, there's always like a service charge included in the price, so that we don't have to tip. And because when I went in 1980, Freddie Laker, he had this Laker Air, and he was offering cheap flights to America. So everybody was going there. When I went, there were so many British people in Florida. And so the restaurants, what I noticed in Miami, the restaurants, they realised that all these British people were coming and they weren't tipping. So they then decided to do what the English do, and they included a service charge in the menu. And because of the British. So we don't really tip that much. We tip taxi drivers, hairdressers, we tip the waiter, but other than that, we're not great tippers as such. And the other cultural difference, because in Britain we always say please and thank you. I don't notice the Americans saying please that often, but every time I said thank you, the Americans, they always say you're welcome. In Britain they don't. They don't say you're welcome. And everywhere I went, I was like, thank you, is you're welcome, thank you, you're welcome, thank you, you're welcome. In the end, I stopped saying thank you. I just smiled, because I didn't want to keep hearing them saying you're welcome. But it's just cultural differences, isn't it, in speech, how we speak differently.
Very good. Okay, now we have, what's not good about traveling?
Airports. I mean, some people, they like airports because they can sit there for hours on end observing people. Like a lot of women, this is not an insult to women, by the way, but I do know some women who like to go to airports just because they're essentially like inquisitive. They want to know. They sit there looking at all these people. I actually know women that do this. Now, I don't mind airports so much. I do go to the airports quite early because I don't want to miss my flight. And then I have something to eat, and then I think, oh my God, I've still got like 4 hours left. And then I go on a mad spending spree. I just go and buy some souvenirs and buy some food. And then eventually time goes by. But I'm not keen on airports, but I do tend to go early because I don't want to miss my flight. And perhaps that's why I don't like airports that much, because hanging around. But I'm a person who likes to be punctual. I don't like to be late. I want to make sure I'm on that plane. What else is not good about travelling abroad? Well, there are communication difficulties. Even as a native English speaker, I do sometimes run into problems with people who can't actually speak English. But it's very rare, it's very seldom. Most people do speak some kind of English, or their friends will speak English to me. So that's the only real bad thing, is the hanging around at the airport. I can't, because I actually like travel, I can't complain really. I don't think, for me there's no real significant bad things about travelling or going abroad overseas, because I am a seasoned traveller now.
Okay, very good. Well, we have a few ideas here about what's good about going abroad. What do we have here?
It's exciting.
It can be, right? Yeah. What do we have here?
You can see new places.
You can see new places, absolutely. What's not good? What's this?
Perhaps you don't speak the language.
Right, you did mention that, right? At
Yeah.
times, it's fun to be able to pick up new words and new phrases, but everybody wants to speak English with you, right?
Yes.
You might want to pick up some of their language, but they want to practice English.
Yeah.
What do we have here?
Everything is strange. Yeah, culture shock. They say that culture shock usually lasts about 3 months when you go somewhere different, because you don't know anybody, you don't speak the language, you don't know where you're going or what you're doing. And I do recall when I first came, I didn't really have culture shock in Spain or Poland, but I suppose this is to do with the fact that they're European countries. But when I came to Saudi Arabia, it was a completely different story. The culture shock was really too much for me. For the first 3 months in Saudi Arabia, I wanted to leave. I wanted to go back every single day. But then, after 3 months, I met some teachers, I met people, I got to know about different places, like the universities, the shops, the embassies. And so after 3 months, it must be true, culture shock lasts 3 months, because once I got past that period of 3 months, I was okay. However, saying that, I mean, I've been coming and going to Saudi Arabia for the past 7 years, and I don't honestly think that I will ever genuinely get used to the culture shock. I don't think, the changes in the culture, for me, it's very hard. It's very hard living here, but I stuck it out. I did it, because I wanted to achieve something, and I think I've done that. But, I do plan on leaving Saudi Arabia quite soon, actually, in the near future. But, culture shock where everything is strange, for me, it really is a big problem in the Middle East. Yeah, I don't think I could ever live here for a really long period of time. I came in 2010, I stayed for 2 years, 8 months. Then I left for a year, I went to Mexico for 6 months, went to Barcelona for 6 months. I came back, and I've been back ever since. And I don't think it's got any better for me here. So I now plan on moving back to Britain or Europe. I can even go to America.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. I think we'd all agree that Saudi Arabia has a very different culture from England or America. So, very fair assessment. How old are you? You old? How were? What could that become?
How old were you?
Perfect. And our answer?
I was 8.
Yes. To did go where you?
Where did you go to? To France.
Would you go with?
Who did you go with? With my family.
Travel how you did.
How did you travel? By plane.
Did journey take the how long?
How long did the journey take? About 4 hours.
Say where you did.
Where did you stay? In a hotel.
Do you did what?
What did you do?
And the answer is
We travelled around.
perfect. It did you enjoy,
Did you enjoy it?
right?
Yes, it was great.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and give it a listen. We'll see how we did.
Tape script
Can we have the
8.6.
script open?
1.
How old were you when you first went abroad?
I was 8. I was very excited. 2.
Where did you go to?
To France. My parents had friends there. 3.
Who did you go with?
My family and my grandparents. 4.
How did you travel?
By plane. It was really exciting. 5.
How long did the journey take?
About 4 hours. It wasn't long, but I was tired. 6.
Where did you stay?
In a hotel. It was really comfortable. 7.
What did you do?
We travelled around and visited friends. 8.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes, it was great. I had a fantastic time.
Can we listen again, teacher?
Of course we can.
Tape script 8.6. 1.
How old were you when you first went abroad?
I was 8. I was very excited. 2.
Where did you go to?
To France. My parents had friends there. 3.
Who did you go with?
My family and my grandparents. 4.
How did you travel?
By plane. It was really exciting. 5.
How long did the journey take?
About 4 hours. It wasn't long, but I was tired. 6.
Where did you stay?
In a hotel. It was really comfortable. 7.
What did you do?
We travelled around and visited friends. 8.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes, it was great. I had a fantastic time.
We've listened and checked and running the extra comments that were made. I'm sure you got those in your book. Here's our example. How old were you? I was 8. The extra comment is, I was very excited. You have all those, so now we have listened to Peter and Yasmina talking about the first time they went abroad.
Okay.
Answer questions 1 through 8 in exercise 2 for each of them.
Tape script 8.7.
How old were you when you first went abroad?
I was 14. Quite old, really.
Where did you go to?
I went to Hungary, to a small town 50 miles from Budapest.
Who did you go with?
Well, it was a school exchange, so I went with other students and teachers from school.
How did you travel?
By train and boat, then train again. We didn't fly because that was too expensive.
How long did the journey take?
Ages. About 14 hours. We left England at 6 in the morning and we arrived at 8 in the evening.
Where did you stay?
Well, with a Hungarian family. They were there at the station when we arrived, and it was very difficult because I didn't speak Hungarian and they didn't speak any English, so we couldn't say much.
What happened then?
We drove back to their house, and there were about 40 friends and relatives to meet me. I wanted to go to bed because I was so tired, but we all sat down for dinner. The meal didn't finish until midnight.
What did you do in Hungary?
Well, I lived with a family, and they were really nice. I really liked my exchange student Joseph. He was 15. We played football and visited his friends. And his parents took me to the zoo. We had lots of picnics. The weather was lovely.
Did you enjoy it?
I had a wonderful time. Joseph's parents were really friendly, especially his mother, and I loved Hungarian food.
How old were you when you first went abroad?
I was 10.
And where did you go to? Can you remember?
Oh, yes. Of course I can. I went to England to visit my uncle who lives in West London.
And who did you go with?
My father, mother, and 2 brothers. One of my brothers was just a baby.
How did you travel? By plane, I suppose.
Yes, we flew into Heathrow Airport, but when we arrived, there was a problem. We couldn't find my uncle and aunt because our plane was late. We looked everywhere and waited and waited. Then after an hour, we found them.
So how long did the journey take?
Well, it was about 9 or 10 hours.
Where did you stay?
In my uncle's house in Acton. When we arrived, there was a party for all our relatives and Egyptian friends. We had lots of Egyptian food and mint tea. I remember I didn't go to bed until 10 o'clock.
What did you do in England?
Well, my uncle has 3 children, so I played with my cousins. We visited a lot of places in London. Buckingham Palace, the London Eye, but it was very cold. It was March, so the weather wasn't very good.
Did you enjoy it?
Oh yes, it was fantastic. London is enormous. There is so much to see and do. I loved it.
Well, how old were you? How old was he?
Sorry?
How old were you was our first question. Now, how old was our speaker when he first went abroad?
Oh, he said, well, according to this, it says 8. But here it says 14.
I was 14, yeah. Now we have, where did you go to? What do you think there?
He went to Hungary, to a small town 50 miles from Budapest.
Budapest, yes, beautiful area. Who did you go with?
He says, I went with other students and teachers from the school.
School exchange, yeah. Now we have, how did you travel?
By boat and train, and then, well, it was by train and boat and then train again.
Train, boat, train. How long did the journey take?
About 14 hours.
And where did you stay?
He stayed with a Hungarian family, and they were there at the station when he arrived.
The Hungarian family.
Yeah.
Now we have, what did you do?
Does it mean at that particular moment, or does it just mean what they did generally, teacher?
I would say what kinds of things did he do on his entire trip abroad?
Well, he played football and visited friends, and his parents took him to the zoo, and they had lots of picnics.
Where did you stay?
And they stayed with a Hungarian family, didn't they? A question.
Yes.
Can you be the interviewer, and I will be Peter?
Sure. How old were you when you first went abroad?
I was 14, quite old really.
Where did you go to?
I went to Hungary, to a small town 50 miles from Budapest.
Who did you go with?
Well, it was a school exchange, so I went with other students and teachers from school.
How did you travel?
By train and boat, then train again. We didn't fly because that was too expensive.
How long did the journey take?
Ages, about 14 hours. We left England at 6 in the morning, and we arrived at 8 in the evening.
Where did you stay?
Well, with a Hungarian family. They were there at the station when we arrived, and it was very difficult because I didn't speak Hungarian and they didn't speak any English, so we couldn't say much.
What happened then?
We drove back to their house, and there were about 40 friends and relatives to meet me. I wanted to go to bed because I was so tired, but we all sat down for dinner. The meal didn't finish until midnight.
What did you do in Hungary?
Well, I lived with the family and they were really nice. I really liked my exchange student, Josef. He was 15. We played football and visited his friends. And his parents took me to the zoo. We had lots of picnics. The weather was lovely.
Did you enjoy it?
I had a wonderful time. Josef's parents were really friendly, especially his mother. And I loved Hungarian food.
Very good. Let me add 2 more questions for you. What did you do? We actually answered that already, didn't we? Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
Yes, definitely enjoyed Hungary, right?
Can we do the next one?
Sure. Now we have a dialogue with me, the interviewer, and Yasmina. Here we go. How old were you when you first went abroad?
I was 10.
And where did you go to? Can you remember?
Oh, yes. Of course I can. I went to England to visit my uncle who lives in West London.
And who did you go with?
My father, mother, and 2 brothers. One of my brothers was just a baby.
How did you travel? By plane, I suppose?
Yes, we flew into Heathrow Airport. But when we arrived, there was a problem. We couldn't find my uncle and aunt because our plane was late. We looked everywhere and waited and waited. Then, after an hour, we found them.
So how long did the journey take?
Well, it was about 9 or 10 hours.
Where did you stay?
In my uncle's house in Acton. When we arrived, there was a party for all our relatives and Egyptian friends. We had lots of Egyptian food and mint tea. I remember I didn't go to bed until 10 o'clock.
What did you do in England?
Well, my uncle has 3 children, so I played with my cousins. We visited a lot of places in London. Buckingham Palace, the London Eye, but it was very cold. It was March, so the weather wasn't very good.
Did you enjoy it?
Oh yes, it was fantastic. London is enormous. There is so much to see and do. I loved it.
Very good. How old was Yasmina when she first went abroad?
She was 10.
She was 10. Where did she go to?
She went to England.
Went to England to visit her uncle who lives in West London. Who did she go with?
She went with her father, mother, and 2 brothers.
Father, mother, and 2 brothers. Very good. How did she travel?
By plane.
Oh, by plane, yeah. How long did the journey take?
Oh, it took ages. In fact, I can't remember.
Yeah, about 9 or 10 hours.
Okay.
Where did she stay?
She stayed at her uncle's house in Acton in
Uncle?
West London.
Uncle's house in Acton, yeah. What did she do?
Well, she visited a lot of places, Buckingham Palace, the London Eye.
Very good. Did she enjoy it?
She did. She said it was fantastic.
It was fantastic. London's enormous. So much to see and do. She loved it. Very good. As you know, I am new. This is your new headway. Elementary book. We'll see you next time.